Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on another edition of the Jboy Show. Going to add something new to the show. Every time I want to give a 5 to 10 minute monologue about kind of some current events in the SEC, sports in general, something that's on my mind, just another way to add to the show. Think about it like getting a segment. Don't want to go over 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to get to our interviews as usual. We've got a great one today with former GM of the Jets and current ESPN NFL front office insider Mike Tannenbaum. I'm going to talk some Aaron Rodgers, Julio Jones, and some post-draft talk. But first, I do want to give a shout-out to our partners at betonline.ag. Head over there today. The online casino is always open. Whether you want to bet Major League Baseball, NFL when it gets here. We know, obviously, NBA is in the playoffs right now. Team props, player props, anything like that. They've got great sign-up bonuses. Like I said, the online casino is always open. That's betonline.ag. Head over there today and tell them that Jboy sent you. But I want to kick this thing off with talking about something. And Aaron Rodgers has been in the news, wanting out of Green Bay. There's kind of a battle going on in between him and Green Bay, and I dissect that with Mike Tannenbaum here shortly. But it kind of parlays it into a bigger thing when we're talking about culture and we're talking about foundation. I talk about it on the show a lot, and I don't want it to sound cliche, but it is huge. It is one of the biggest things to have a locker room that you can trust, that polices itself, and that there's no cancers that end up affecting you off the field. It's almost harder for a coach, GM, whatever, to win off the field than it is on the field. Because typically the teams that are able to have that locker room, that cohesion, that structure, tend to win. We hear terms like the process from Nick Saban. Well, what is that? The process is obviously grinding it out in practice and getting a little bit better each day, but doing the things outside of catching the ball, throwing the ball, tackling the ball carrier, going to class, holding your teammates accountable. When new guys come into that locker room, they either embrace the way that you've done it or they leave and you turn it into a machine. And that's what successful coaches do. That's what successful CEOs do. And that's what people in the world of competition and team sports, those are the teams and those are the organizations that end up winning championships. And I say that to look at Aaron Rodgers. And people will say, oh, if you're Green Bay, don't let him go. Make him sit. To me, regardless of how talented Aaron Rodgers is, and he's uber talented, he's one of the best out there, kind of invented a little bit of a different way to play the game and kind of came out of nowhere. But sometimes you have to cut bait. Because if a guy sticks around like that, and listen, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is a bad person, but if he's unhappy, and it's your best player and he's unhappy, that permeates itself throughout the team. And he doesn't even have to be in the locker room, because Aaron Rodgers holds sway a ton with that team. And it seems that Aaron has made up his mind that he doesn't want to go back. And if you, from the Packers standpoint, you want to get the full value you can get for Aaron Rodgers. That is obvious. Get it now, get it later, 2 first-round picks, whatever. But eventually, you have got to release him because it's going to become a problem that eats you from the inside out. And I kind of correlate that to this Eric Gilbert situation a little bit. And to all the LSU fans that are really upset that he left, I understand losing a great player and how that makes you feel. But if Eric Gilbert wasn't happy at LSU, which seemed to be the case, if there was distractions or problems off the field at LSU, which seems to be the case, coming off a season they went 5-5, and it wasn't like he set the world on fire. Not saying he won't be a great player in the NFL or get his act together or whatever, but it may be a good thing that he's gone. Maybe for the locker room, because there's a ton of talent in that LSU locker room. For those guys, it may be the best thing that could happen. And it may be the best thing that could happen to Eric Gilbert. Sometimes that break is mutually beneficial. And regardless of how talented a guy is, if it is going to eat at the foundation and affect the outcome for everybody else, it's smarter to cut bait, shake hands, and go different directions. So to all the LSU fans that are freaking out, and Georgia fans, I'd be excited. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, be excited. It could be a change for Eric Gilbert, a new structure, a fresh start. quote Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, be the Febreze brothers. Be a fresh start. So to me, while you do lose a player if you're LSU, or you do lose an elite player if you're Green Bay, which the only difference is Green Bay can get something back for that. The only thing LSU can get back is maybe a better locker room because there's enough talent to win there, or at least compete. And you never know the inner workings of how the dominoes of a player leaving can affect. Maybe it motivates the next guy to step up even more now that he knows he's going to have a role. Now you don't have a cloud hanging over you if you're in that position room of, is Eric Gilbert coming back? Is he not? Now the coaches don't have to sit here and answer. Is he coming back? Is he not? Because I'm sure they get asked about it all the time. Now you know the troops you have pretty much, and you can go to war. And at the end of the day, your job as a coach, your job as a GM, or a leader of a team is to make sure that the off-the-field culture and the foundation marries up with the discipline you want on the field. And that's how you create not only a winner, but a consistent and a dominant winner. Ask Nick Saban. It's called The Process. All right, very excited to get to Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL GM for the New York Jets, current ESPN NFL Front Office Insider. Great interview. We're talking more Aaron Rodgers, Julio Jones, post-draft talk. It's a crazy time of year, so make sure you check us out. Excited to bring on a guest today. You see him on ESPN, especially this time of year, really with the NFL. It's 365 nowadays in post-draft. Was the GM of the Jets. You've seen him with the Dolphins. ESPN NFL Front Office Insider, one of my favorite guys to have on here. Mike Tannenbaum. Mike, what's up, man?
Good to be with you here in person.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's good. It's so much different. Doing Zoom and all that stuff's great, but man, I just enjoy the in-person interviews and appreciate you taking some time and hanging out here with us in Atlanta. But I got to get right to it. And something you've talked about a bunch, and it seems to be the hottest topic right now in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers. You look at what's going on with the Packers. My question is, do you see him playing for Green Bay at all? Is there a chance? And if not, who are some teams that you really kind of see him going toward? Because I know he wants to win. He's not going to go try to rebuild something, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I think there's a reasonable chance he'll be there, and here's why. I just don't think Green Bay's going to trade him because if they trade him and they don't win, they'll lose their job. So if they're going to make a trade and it's for a lot of draft choice capital, it could be whatever it is, 2 first-round picks. They can make that trade today on June 2nd, November 2nd, December 2nd. They got to be patient. They got to try to wait it out because those picks aren't going to be used till next year anyway. So if I would expect this really doesn't heat up until Labor Day. Second part of your question, to me, the one team that always made sense was Denver because Drew Lock could go back to Green Bay. Now you have Lock and Jordan Love battling it out, and I think Denver would become instantly the team to beat in the AFC with Rodgers.
Yeah, and again, I need to go ahead and put some money on the Broncos right now just in case. But, the dichotomy of this situation, Mike, and you kind of alluded to it from the coaching staff and the organization's perspective. I mean, you've obviously been at the highest levels of an NFL organization. When you have your best player and there's a disgruntled type situation like this, we've seen it happen in franchise. We see it happen in college football now, especially with the transfer portal. Having to balance, well, if we let this guy go and we don't win, they're going to fire us. Do you almost feel like you're the one on a raft out in the middle of the ocean, or is Aaron Rodgers the one on the raft out in the middle of the ocean?
Yeah, we're probably on each one on a little bit of a different one. Aaron Rodgers wants to play football.
Yeah.
And if he's convinced they won't trade him, the worm kind of turns a little bit because what are you going to do? Are you going to retire? A couple of decades ago, we saw it with Carson Palmer. He sat out a year and finally got traded from Cincinnati. But as much as there's a ton of pressure on Green Bay, and I'm not minimizing it, put yourself in Aaron Rodgers' shoes. What happens if somebody in a circle says, hey, you know what? They're not going to trade you.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do?
Yeah. And again, time is running. Time waits for no man. And Aaron Rodgers, not young anymore, can still do it. Still a witch of the highest order. But that's one obviously everybody's going to be following. And I know you're going to be following and covering as well. And another guy, if Aaron Rodgers wasn't in the news and we weren't talking about, this would be the headline guy, in my opinion, at least, Julio Jones. And again, listen, is his best ball ahead of him? I don't think so, but he is still a freak of nature. He's a guy that you have to shade to, or the defense is going to have to do something at least with him, so it gives you an idea. And he's such a great off the field guy. What are you kind of hearing on Julio right now? We're in Atlanta, and a lot of Falcons fans are kind of scratching their head.
Yeah, I think by next week's mandatory minicamp for Atlanta, I think he'll be traded. If you're a new head coach in Arthur Smith, you just don't want that distraction. It's not if, but when. I thought all along Tennessee made the most sense. They lost Jonnu Smith. They lost Corey Davis. He could come in opposite A.J. Brown with Derrick Henry. I think that puts him right back in the conversation and closing the gap with Kansas City.
Yeah, Tennessee's starting to look like an SEC team over there. It's pretty smart. Mike Vrabel kind of knows what's going on over there. But, kind of in that same vein, I wonder, because I've had Falcons fans reach out to me and say, I don't understand it. And again, it comes down to money and fit and stuff like that. But we all know Julio Jones would be a great fit in Atlanta if he stays. He's already proven that. But you could have Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley in one wide receiver group. If I'm Matt Ryan, am I not at the door just beating it down every day? Like, listen, we got to do whatever we can to keep this guy, or is it just too far down the road?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, on the one hand, you could say that, well, if they kept Matt Ryan, they should keep Julio Jones. If they're going to go young, let's go draft a quarterback, best quarterback at pick 4, and move on from both Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. So there is some inconsistency there. But look, Ridley was a 1.
Yep.
And now he has to be a 1. And now you have him with Kyle Pitts, and hopefully, they could do damage for a number of years.
Yeah, I think Kyle's going to be a hell of a player. I mean, you look at his athleticism at his size, it's a good fit. And it's, nothing helps out a dynamic wide receiver more than having another dynamic wide receiver.
Absolutely.
On the other side.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it kind of evens it out. But speaking about dynamic, if you're trying to find the most dynamic way to get your kid recruited, whether you're the prospect, whether you're the parent, whether you're the guardian, it doesn't matter. And emailing the coach 35,000 times does not work. I promise you that they will stop looking at it. They won't read it. You need to download the Dynasty U app right now. It's in the Google Play, anywhere you get your apps. It's unbelievable. It's like a LinkedIn for high school recruits. So everything you need in one spot: highlights, academics, social media links, everything that's concise where a college coach can look at it. Been in that room where you're having to search for huddle and having to look up all these different things. If it can be in one place, it'd be perfect. And it is, and it's totally free. That's the Dynasty U app. Download it anywhere you get your apps. Coaches love it. Prospects love it. Parents love it. It's the easiest way to do it. Make sure you download that today while it's free, because it's not going to be free for too much longer. Winding down here, very excited to welcome former GM, current ESPN NFL Office Insider, Mike Tannenbaum here, talking a little free agency. We know how crazy it is getting up toward the season, which will kick off. It'll be here in a blink of an eye. But something, we had you on before the draft, and that was a great show. We got great response from it. And you were right on a lot of your calls and where they were going and some moves that were going to be made.
I got a few wrong too.
You did well. Again, I'm not gonna. If you were perfect on the draft, then we'd just go to Vegas. I'd have to put you in a van and we go to Vegas and figure it out. Anybody that's perfect on the draft, please let me know. But it's tough to say one team won the draft. I guess there's got to be a couple. Who were a couple that stand out in your mind that after you looked at it through all rounds, you thought those guys really had a nice plan, they put it together, or they adjusted really well and finished strong?
Yeah, look, we're gonna get to Chicago here in a second, but look, I think we could start with them just from a standpoint like, it's hard to make trades, and it's even harder to make trades when everyone knows like what you have to do. So tip of the cap to the Bears, because I think sometimes we forget how good that defense was a year ago. So just that Fields trade alone, I would put them right at the top. I think Jacksonville did a nice job. Mm-hmm. Obviously, not just with Trevor Lawrence, but I love what what he brings to the table. He's explosive. Now, maybe they could have gone him a little bit further down. But I thought for what they did, what they needed, it was at least a good foundation.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we're starting to see a trend. I mean, and again, it could be an anomaly, I guess, but Tua gets Devontae, Jalen gets Jalen, Jalen gets Devontae, Tua.
Right.
It seems to me, and with ETN and Trevor Lawrence going to the same place, are teams starting to want to take guys that have played with each other at these elite places, that kind of chemistry already built in? Because you have that at the quarterback and running back position. You have that at the quarterback wide receiver position.
I think a little bit. Now, in each situation, I don't really particularly think that Jalen Hurts had a ton of juice with the Philly front office to say, hey, go get that guy. I'm sure Miami, for example, would ask Tua about, hey, tell us about Waddle, tell us about Devontae Smith. So I think getting information, that was something I always wanted. One of the questions I would always ask is, who was your best teammate and why? Yeah. Or who did you hate going against and why? And it wasn't just finding out that answer, but when you started to hear the same player over and over again, that would want us to gravitate towards those prospects.
Yeah. And I got to ask you this question, Mike, because I think it's a great question that hit me on the way in here this morning, which is typically where I do my best thinking on the way into work. But, we see movies like Draft Day, and you do all this work and you do all your analysis, and during the movie, the quarterback, you found out nobody showed up to his birthday party.
Yep.
Has there been instances like that you've been involved in, and you're like, man, this guy hits all the boxes athletically, but nobody likes the guy, and that's going to hurt us?
Sure. I'll give you a great example of a positive, which was we went out to work Mark Sanchez before the draft in 2009, and it was at his high school. There must have been 25 people there. Just, people to run routes, people set up cones. Like, he was beloved. Like, he wasn't respected. He was beloved. And he had a natural, energy about him and leadership. And you can't fake that.
Yeah.
There was a time where we worked out a player, two receivers showed up. and that told us everything we need to know. That like he couldn't get anybody else to be at his workout. So on the positive, it was a guy like Sanchez. On the negative, there were certainly, a couple of guys. It stood out. And to me, one of the things I've learned the most about running teams is who you are in life is how you treat people that can help you.
Yeah.
The waiter, the waitress, the driver, the academic people, the trainer, the equipment people. And those are the people I like to talk to the most because I'll find out exactly what kind of true character the player has.
Man, that's a great way to put it, and that's a great way to end it, Mike. I appreciate it, brother. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, and you got a podcast that is awesome. Tell everybody where they can find that.
Yeah, the 33rd Team. We're just a bunch of GMs and head coaches.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, put out some content every week, and I'm also at Real Tannenbaum on Twitter.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate it, Mike. Hopefully we can do this again, brother.
All
it's
right,
always
all
fun.
Right. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys as well. Head to the jboyshow.com. Grab some merchandise. We got the black hoodie, the gray hoodie. We're adding stuff every day. Hats. In my opinion, the trucker hats are the best. As well, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. We got more great content coming. For Mike Tannenbaum, I'm Jake Crain of the Jboy Show, and we're gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.